I think education plays a big part in um, the problems that we just saw in the movie. And I think a lot of it also has to do with the way education is nowadays. I don't think a lot of schooling teaches you a lot about how to handle your finances as well as we think a lot of people talk about how they don't even know how to file their taxes because it's not really taught in our education system. So I think education is key to understand how to manage your money. um, just as much as everything else is important in education, I think that part is also very important. Thank you for sharing.
There
Any
was
other?
also a lot of predatory lending that went on during the time. People were taken advantage of, and they bundled the assets and they sold them too. So it wasn't just the poor people's faults for getting into it. People came to them and said, "You have a high credit score, you're doing really well. Would you like to buy a house?" And it's called predatory lending. And no, and then when they bought the house at a very low interest rate, the interest rate kept on going up, so that less of the value was going in, less of the money was actually paying for the house.
Yes.
So
And
yeah,
again, yes, no, I completely agree. And it's again, it comes to the fact that people aren't educated to be aware of those scams and advisors that lead them in the wrong direction. So I completely agree. I think we have some comments in the chat box. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Shulamit. Um, said mortgage business involved a deliberate taking advantage of people with less by people with more, and the people with less accepted the opportunity presented to them. It's true. And Stacy commented, so the financial advisors steered them in the wrong direction. Um, and she said not always the case, but definitely part of the problem discussed in the movie. Stan Mullen said film was accurate. Mortgage brokers had incentive to take loans and many would deceive unsophisticated borrowers. As well, managers at Century, Ameriquit, Option One, and other mortgage firms fraudulently changed the borrow income up on the applications. So yeah, a lot of scams, a lot of misleading information out there. And it was easy to lead people in wrong direction at the time. We have one more comment. Also, the mortgage industry folks were making it up as they were going along. And people believed it because they sounded like they knew what they were talking about. So,
Yeah,
for sure.
I think I felt the biggest theme was that it was packaged as, and there was this one sentence in the movie which was like very profound. It was like, this mortgage is going to buy you happiness and satisfaction and stability, or like, this is the only way to feel happy in life, or something like that. I think the risk was not told to them at all, because any investment is risky. But
Yeah.
then this whole mortgage packaging system was selling it as the most stable investment in the world, and like, this is your happiness given to you very easily. So I think what I would like to learn, or like I wish people knew more of, is the difference between what is a stable investment asset versus what's a risky one. So I think there was, and because there were so many people doing it, it makes sense. Like, my friend also did it, so I'm also gonna do it, kind of a thing.
So 100%. It's like one does it, let's do it. It must be right. I don't have to think twice. So that for sure that's plays a big role. And we have one more comment. So example, the woman who was given instructions, which she followed, which led to default. Yes. 100%. It, it's all again, it's like fishing out, I guess getting educated in those topics and understanding how to I guess avoid those or understand like how to really look at all your risk and understand before you get into something is very important. And again, that comes with education as well. So I agree. And the movie did a fantastic job demonstrating wealth gap over the years.
also remember they didn't bail out the people, they bailed out the bank, and because they were too big to fail. You know, people are not too big to fail, according to these people. The note people were bailed out of the mess that whoever made for them, and I'm not gonna sit here and blame one of these people who wanted to buy a house and who were suckered into it, but you know, all these places got bailed out too. You know, they let a few of them go. And then they bailed out like Chase, and they bailed out Citibank, and they bailed out the Merrill Lynch and all these huge companies. But they didn't bail out the little people who got screwed either. So, you know, it's just something to think about too.
Yes, I agree. That's when power comes in, and autonomy and everything else as well. I see a couple more comments. Shalomit said, but Greenspan said he didn't understand it. So how much education would be enough? And Stan said a personal residence is a liability on a balance sheet, whereas a rental property is listed as an asset. The homeowners would be better off renting an apartment and buying a rental property with a conservative loan to value ratio. Example, 65% or to 35%. Yeah, and Shalomit said exactly, speaker, the people who lost were not bailed out. Yes, great. And other example of wealth gap are for example, in 1760 to 1850, Industrial Revolution also played a big part in how our economy looks today and the social lifestyle and technology. And with that also came some of the downsides like monopolies and child laborers and robber barons and unhealthy working conditions. And then from that point on, in 1950s, sitcoms like Leave It to Beaver became popular, demonstrating the idyllic life. And after that, in 1981, we had the Economic Recovery Act that introduced the term Reaganomics, emphasizing the tax cuts for businesses and reducing government regulation as a means to stimulate economic growth. And then from then on, in 2007 to 2009 timeframe, came the Great Recession, where a sharp, prolonged decline in wealth of American families occurred, and an already large wealth gap between white households and Black and Hispanic households were widened even further in its immediate aftermath. And then in more recent times, as we know, between 2020 to 2022, the pandemic came around that exposed and deepened the wealth gap and increased debt globally for everyone except the rich. And then unemployment rate also went up at that point. So a lot of different factors in a time point in our history shaped what our wealth gap and our economy looks today. And so knowing this, what surprised you the most about the movie? I know we talked a little bit about some of the things here already, but what are some things that surprised you the most about the movie? And in the topic of wealth gap in general, what's something that you'd like to discuss that you know about, and just something that stood out to you in general? It doesn't have to be related to the movie at all, just about the topic.
Well, the one guy that was the what was his name? The guy, I don't know, he said he used to work at some mortgage place and now he's a tour guide. And he didn't say why he doesn't do the other job. Was he fired? Did he have some sort of, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I see Stan put in the comments, are we heading to a similar situation today? Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, while I knew the wealth gap was massive, I just didn't know how much the 0.1% was taking from the economy. And I think the numbers would be even higher now, with the current like 2025 situation. So it's just very I don't know, it's just very damning and worrying, honestly, because it's hard to build wealth. And then if there's a recession idea that comes through, given the picture that we're having right now, I think I don't know how to deal with that. So.
Yes, I agree. It is very worrying for sure. And I see more comments. Shalomit says, so interesting when the brokers were asked about sense of responsibility. Long pause. Expressions of perplexity. And Stacy said, I was surprised to see folks who were in real estate also being caught in the bubble. That's they have all the education, but they were still caught up in it. So how much education again is enough? So Carla said, right, ethics. Yes. And I think we often tend to overlook that younger generations don't have as much money as older generation now. So it is financially harder for newer generation, especially when it comes to home ownership. So most can't afford to own a home right now, and the number of adults living with their parents and families have increased over the years. However, when it comes to paying for college tuition, in the recent survey on employee benefits, the Society for Human Resource Management found that 56% of U.S. employers offer a tuition assistance program for their employees, generally in a form of cash reimbursement. But there's also the minimum wage that also plays a big role in lifestyle. Like the federal minimum wage right now, I think is $7.25 per hour. However, many states can also set their own higher minimum wage limit, like New York has 16 an hour, but that still plays a role in the lifestyle and affordability as well. Stan said, Canada has 5 main banks and they have conservative LTV underwriting for commercial and residential loans. That is to say 70 out of 30 and 60 out of 40. And they did not have a credit crisis when the US did, when Lehman Brothers collapsed. And Stacy said it's like in the movie when they said employers weren't willing to pay employees higher wages, but they were willing to loan them money. Yes. So what resources did the movie suggest or would you recommend to help people understand the issues around wealth gap and how can they educate themselves to be well versed when they make these decisions, financial decisions, or just educate themselves to make better financial decisions and I guess try to bridge the disparity as much as they can? Are there any resources that you would recommend that you've used that could be a great starting point for people?
You need to hire somebody that does that wealth management and research. And don't just go because your brother's sister's brother-in-law or whatever thinks that's a good person. Interview lots of people and pick somebody that's, I don't know, you feel like you can get along with, not just somebody that's dying to make money, you know? Because in the long run, it'll be in a relationship that you're building with this person. Because
Yes.
they make money if you make money.
Yes. I agree. I think it's helpful to have your own judgment on your financial advisor than it is to just go with the recommended people. I mean, there's nothing wrong to go with the referrals, but then again, like you said, do your interviews, check a few more people, and make your own judgment. So I definitely agree.
Are
You
there
need
any
to like
people?
interview many people, like
Many people. Yeah.
10 at least.
Yes.
It's like when you go to a job interview, you don't just pick the first one that offered it. Maybe it's not right for you and your skills. You make a decision when you go for a job interview. It's the same thing, only instead of you hoping to hire them, they are hoping to hire you. You know what I mean? It's the other way around. You're the employer and you're choosing the employee in this way. I mean, the person that you eventually hire and you decide. I mean, I'm it's still possible you'll pick somebody that's predatory, but if you it seems like if you interview many people, you'll get a feel for what would be right, and
Yes.
then make a decision on many points of view, not just one or two, or your sister's husband's whoever. does that on the side, while they do something else. No, don't hire that person. Get somebody that's qualified. They have information brokers. You can verify that they're actually licensed by an actual company, so they don't just, they have that information out there. You can do it on the internet.
Yes. Yeah. I think a lot of times people go with the first person that they see because they don't know any better. And it's very important to see and talk to more people so you can see the differences on things that they could offer for you and feel it out. So, 100%.
And
Um,
don't agree to like when they want you to sign up today. No, I need to review it with my whoever. Make up a person. They don't need to know. That's
yeah,
none of their business. It's, keep the information you share with them initially to a minimum, because you want to interview. When you went to apply for a job, did your employer just tell you everything about themselves at the interview? No, they only asked you what they felt they needed. And the same thing for you. Don't reveal everything about yourself, just what you're looking for, and then make your decision. And you're deciding who is best for you. Now, don't just jump because, oh, I can get you a great deal about whatever. No, don't do that. In fact, that person's scary. Don't do work with them. Move on.
yes, 100%. Definitely buy time and think about it instead of jumping for sure. Uh,
Exactly.
yes. I see there have been a few comments in the chat box. Let me go in there. I'm not sure where to start. Sorry. Scrolling up.
Do you want me
Yes,
to
please.
yeah, I'm happy to. And why don't you can ask another question too while I figure out where we left off.
Yes. Well, I was just gonna say that besides, finding the right wealth management, I think Anu was trying to say something before she got cut
Yeah,
off. Let
I
me.
was trying to ask a question. I was wondering if you knew of any free resources where, free resources that could help you read through all the documents that we sign, because they talked in that movie about how these documents that we're signing, contracts, are like 1 inch thick pile of stack
Yeah.
of papers. So the fine print reading, I was wondering if you knew of any resources, like a lawyer that offers pro bono services or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm personally not aware of any of those resources, but if anybody here would like to jump in and share some of their resources, that would be very helpful.
I would
Although
say,
we'll keep in mind that we're not vetting any of the resources people are putting in the chat.
Yes.
And you should vet, as Carla definitely makes clear, you should vet your vetted referrals or non-vetted referrals. But sorry, who was going to say something?
I was going to say something. I was going to say for, some type of agreements, something like AI may be good. So putting that into Chat GPT or Gemini, because one of the tools that they have is to summarize what a document is. So again, I'm not 100% sure as well, but I've used that in other areas, and that seems to be a reasonable way to get a lot of information condensed down in a way that you can understand. So maybe for those agreements, that might work too.
As an add-on, sure. And actually you can ask AI questions like, is there anything in this, document that sounds fishy? I mean, you probably have to ask it better than that, but what are the cautions I should be aware of in this document? It's a really interesting point.
The
One thing,
caveat,
if you're lending out money, you should go to a lawyer.
Suspect.
Sorry. Oh, so many people
You're like
talking.
3 people. Sorry.
Let's give it to Stan because he hasn't, although he's spoken in the chat, he hasn't spoken to all of us. Love to hear your voice.
So the one thing that is the case in Los Angeles and Orange County in Southern California is the local county bar associations, the lawyers, they do have pro bono sections. Now, those pro bono sections are designed for people that are on the very low end of the income spectrum. But depending on the city you live in, I would check with a local bar association and ask them if they have pro bono work for this kind of thing.
That's a great point. I think some places call them like legal services or legal aid as well. Great
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Jessica, I think you were going to say something.
I forgot. Stan, you were so brilliant. I forgot.
regarding
you.
the AI comment, then caveat, because AI may or may not give you accurate information. AI has provided people with, for example, the results of tennis matches that haven't been played yet. And so, and they will say who won. And so although it's information, you still have to vet whatever was told to you by AI.
Yes. I mean, definitely, I feel like you can use AI as like a tool to help you, but definitely cross-check their information and go back and read the form again, ask them where in the form did you see this information and things like that. So I've been told it's good to ask questions back to ChatGPT to ask it to refer us to where they found the information. So that's one way, but again, not reliable completely. So definitely read your own contract, but yes, for sure. And then I see a comment. It says, Jessica, there's a movement to limit what can be, be, sorry, I cannot pronounce that word. Stacey, you're muted.
So sorry, I can read them. So Jessica, so Shulamit said, Jessica, there's a movement to limit what can be bequeathed to prevent the passing down of assets among the less wealthy, which is just mind blowing. By the way, I also want to throw in that you can find the movie The Floor on YouTube. It is available. There's a few different versions of it on YouTube. So I encourage you to check that out as well.
Right, thank you. And then yes, for sure. And then it's also important to learn about the notable people that have impacted the wealth gap topic in general. For example, let's say there's Daniela Pearson. She's one of the young, wealthy entrepreneur who's contributed to some of the wealth I guess economy. So read up on those people. There's Mabel B. Little. There's Wendy Edelberg. Donald Trump plays a big role in wealth gap. Selena Gomez with her charity work. And there's many other major well-known people that you could read up on to see how they have impacted wealth in general. And yeah, and any other resources that you would like to suggest that you think would be helpful to understand the topic further? Any other shows, movies, articles, documentaries that you've read, any books that you think would be helpful for any age to get started in understanding the topic?
Can I add something? When I say hire somebody, like a lawyer, let's say they're $400 an hour. Okay, wow, that's really expensive, right? But aren't you going to buy like a house that's worth at least $400,000, right? So if you have enough money to buy that house, you should consult a professional that understands that. You don't need 100 hours, you need one. And if you could spend that whatever it is, $400, you would make it better. And I'm not saying only go by that one person, but that one person can give you resources that allow you to make better decisions. That maybe you could hire somebody else that maybe is cheaper. Maybe you could hire another person that's $100 an hour. But I mean, even if it's $500, I mean, isn't that worth an investment of your time and education, so you make a better decision when it comes to, getting a loan or buying a piece of property, right?
Yes.
And I'll add to what's in the chat here. It goes to what we were saying earlier about education as well. Both what Carla's saying, what Stan put in the chat. People should be encouraged to make a household budget when they first get a job and rent an apartment, in particular before they buy a condo or a home, to know what they can afford. Their budget should include a line for saving 1% from every paycheck. And if it's a rental, you can save 1% of your rental income, set it aside, right? And likely wait until they have 6 months of savings in the event that they lose their job stored up before they buy. So in addition to whatever the down payment would be, but also an extra kind of seed money is what Stan's advising. And actually, my daughter, who's just going off to college, she took an economics class, and they had her. My daughter's like, so Mom, if I wanted to move back in the house after I graduate college, what would you charge me rent? I was like, where is this coming from? and she said her class made her figure out what her expenses would be, and so that she knew what kind of income she would need to strive for when she graduated, which I thought was really interesting. Jessica put in a book in here, Inequality Media by Robert Reich. The Wolf of Wall Street was a dramatic movie based on a true story that depicted people at the genesis of the predatory lending fiasco. That the same one that today's movie was discussing. Anu Thakur put 2 cents on the YouTube, which is a YouTube channel. And then Jessica added Paul Krugman. Is that, and you can put in that also if that's a YouTube channel or an author or a speaker of some kind. All really interesting resources. I'll have to check them out myself. This is great, Hanali. Does anybody else, before we close
He's
out?
an economist, Paul Krugman. It is, I think, and Nobel Prize winning economist.
Excellent. And I think that a lot of the topics that come up today were about like the importance of having students understand the economics of their personal life, of business, of home ownership, all of those kinds of things. I'm going to tell, I know I was just asked what's the economics class my daughter took. She's taking AP economics at her high school. So that is the class she's taking. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one she's taking. I'm gonna check one more time. And we also have Professor Galloway from NYU Stern is good on YouTube, etc.
I love that we're representing NYU. I went to NYU, so alumni.
Shout out to NYU.
Yes. And then there are also resources out there. You can also watch movies or plays about economic disparities and financial hardships, like Trading Places, and watch Mame, the musical by Jeremy Lawrence, and the show on Prime called The Men Who Built America. That's a lot about Rockefeller and Carnegie and just how they shaped the economy in general. So that's a great series if you're interested in that. And then there's also a book, 99 to 1 by Chuck Collins. That's been suggested. So any other books, comments, or anything else you'd like to discuss? Last minute comments?
I actually, I'm wrong, by the way. It was American. It's not an AP class. I totally lied. That's not one of the AP classes he's taking. It is American Government and Economics, which is a half of the year they take American government topics, and then the other half of the year it's an economics topic. And discuss with people who are different from us. And that's really important, because if you are, and it goes to several of the points earlier that were mentioned, I know Carla mentioned it a bit, is if you're just talking to the people then they know similar things that you already know. So getting out of your comfort zone and talking to people who are different in so many different ways is really important. Yes, get out of the echo chamber. Yes, exactly. So, Hanali, should I close this up? We're at 8:31.
Yeah, that's go. Yeah, sure.
Excellent. Thank you all for staying on this call and for the discussion. And sorry for keeping you a little late. Really enjoyed watching the film The Floor with you all. And the topic of wealth gap is obviously an important conversation, as you all made sure we knew as we were having this discussion. And thank you to Hanali for excellent Q&A. We are going to put a poll up in just a minute. If you would be so kind as to take that, that would be great. It helps us to understand how the impact we have. So if you see that poll come up, please go ahead and fill that out. Wealth gap is not a one and done topic. It's an ongoing conversation. And towards that end, we'll send you access to our infographic on this topic, which will include some of the points that we mentioned today, but also additional points. You can also make sure that you have strategies like we just discussed, including talking to other people about what strategies they use to help create their own revenue streams and multiple income sources, how whether they have dual income households or not. Ask people about topics like gig work, Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, people who are doing Amazon deliveries and seamlessly, and other kinds of side hustles. So really kind of understanding where people's revenue is or income is coming from helps us also kind of understand where ours might, if it isn't already, right? And also have empathy for the folks, when you see that tip button, for example, how much tip you give. And actually 46% of Americans work a side hustle, or I should say need a side hustle to make ends meet. That's rather a large number. And 54.3% of American households are dual income. So imagine, you get divorced and half that income's gone. What do you do? And you might not be the one who made the more money in that income stream. We encourage you, and I think certainly there's been some excellent options for movies and books that have already been mentioned in chat and by Hanali, so thank you. Additionally, Grapes of Wrath, it's an oldie but a goodie by John Steinbeck. It was inspired by the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, so certainly taken at an extreme. And I know Stan had mentioned like what's the situation now and where are we headed. So taking at the extreme, a book like that definitely enlightens us about what things could be. Also, next time you see these Roaring 20s parties, right? You go to a Roaring 20s parties, or you dress up as somebody from the Roaring 20s for a Halloween costume. Do some research about what it was like in the Roaring 20s. What happened in the Roaring 20s? What were the economics of that? And really understanding who was that economic prosperity for and who was left out of that economic prosperity. We encourage you to share an infographic and share our YouTube video of this event. I was actually going to put the YouTube video for the AI we had a little discussion about AI here, but I didn't get a chance. So go to our YouTube channel and you'll find our AI discussion, one of our best events, if I do say so myself, along with this one. So I appreciate all of your participation in this discussion. Please consider committing to one wealth gap related friendly action each week, learning about something wealth gap related, having a conversation with somebody related to this topic, and so forth. We encourage you to come to any of our events. You can see them on our website at www.informyourcommunity.org. But you can certainly check out our next event, which is an adult crafting event on citizenship. And we will be making mosaic boxes, and the materials are free. We ship them for free. That's why those donations are so important. So sign up for the event. Also, feel free to donate on our website on the top right. Thank you all for coming and for completing the survey. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you at a future event. Thank you, folks, for coming. Yes,
Thank
we
you.
will be able to. You're welcome. So glad you can make it. The event will be, somebody said, will this event be listed on Eventbrite? You'll be able to see, probably in about a week or so, you'll be able to see the video on YouTube. Oh, great, Hanali, thank you for putting that link to the movie on YouTube. So then you're probably not going to get an email from us about the movie access time frame. If the link we sent you doesn't work anymore and the code doesn't work anymore, just go on YouTube. You'll be able to see it there. And Jessica said, listen to Bruce Springsteen. Just going through so many great comments. Oh, and greeters at the grocery store. They're great. Why are they there, right? Are they really there just for something to do, right? Exactly. I love it. Thank you all for your participation and for coming. Have an absolutely lovely night.